It takes time to get wealthy in the cryptocurrency space. Occasionally, you might come across an outlier story about a guy who actually became wealthy extremely quickly. Furthermore, the narrative is still an anomaly, even if it is genuine. That isn't an example of what you should realistically anticipate happening to you. The fact is that you probably won't have the same success if you attempt to emulate the behaviors that caused this extraordinary event. Just like that's the reality. The majority of people who do the kinds of activities that lead to these outlier stories fail and lose a lot or everything. It is the reality of the situation. Therefore, it is true that all you need to do to become wealthy in cryptocurrency is to have some real spine. Linguini spine cannot be applied to you. You must have an outlook that is long enough. Diversity is essential. I mean, despite my predisposition, I really support that. My favorite coin is XRP. It's my biggest personal investment. I do own a variety of cryptocurrencies. That makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. And most people need years to accumulate that transformative wealth. What's fascinating, though? That's the scenario for the majority of us who become extremely wealthy in cryptocurrency, despite the fact that you have to go through that process, which takes years. However, what's truly amazing, and I don't think many people know this, is that in the end, the most significant days which provide the majority of your life-altering cryptocurrency income are actually only a few days. There's a lesson in that too, though I doubt most people are aware of it. Therefore, keep this in mind as I move a little farther into the video and read this Cointelegraph article, alerting us to a possible decline in XRP. Look, I really think we're going to go into face melt area before the cycle is finished. Even if it's accurate, I'm not expecting anything terrible to happen here. Yes, I do. I'm not sure if the analysts that are predicting double-digit price action for XRP are correct. But I don't believe it's ridiculous. I don't believe that even the analysts who predict that we will reach $20 or $30 are in Looney Tunes land. I'm not sure if it will occur. Safely replaced in the actual world, isn't that right? I'll merely state that it makes no difference if we start a little lower. You'll see why I say this when you watch the film. But as I usually say, you either have exposure when the big amazing moves happen or you don't. Check out this post then. The Nagentropic account is the source of this. The co-founders of the on-chain analytics company Glassnode are in charge of this. And this was only uploaded yesterday. I'm happy they did too. I have discussed this subject several times. Not many people are aware that this is true in both the stock market and cryptocurrency. This isn't appreciated by enough people. So let me help spread the word. So here is Negentropic's post. 90% of the returns during the 2021 bull run were generated in 14 days. The difference between a 2x and a 10x can be determined by missing those. People, please take a moment to think about that. A year is made up of 365 days. Leap years are not taken into account. There are 365 days in a year then. Additionally, there were 14 of them, which represents a very small portion of the bull run's annual days. 90% of the returns occurred on 14 of the days, or 14 of the 365 days. This implies that practically none of the days produced nearly all of the profit. That's the meaning of that. Only a small percentage of the days produced nearly all of the profit. For this reason, I often argue that you either have exposure to these events or you don't, and living that HODL lifestyle is the only way to guarantee that you do. That's the truth, you know. You don't require a complex trading strategy of any kind. There is no need for a time market. You don't need to switch between positions. It simply occurs when it does. Additionally, many people panic sell during this time. Many people experience boredom. They speculate that they may have made a mistake and then just decide to leave because they believe they are more knowledgeable, changing their stances. They're the ones who don't succeed. They're the ones who don't succeed in becoming wealthy using cryptocurrency. People who get affluent in cryptocurrency, as well as in the stock market, buy things and then do nothing else. The statistics supports this. They simply hold that. Naturally, if it eventually accounts for a sizable amount of your net worth, and you realize, wow, this really did work, and you wish to benefit, then by all means do so. However, you will fail if you believe that you know better than anybody else about timing the market, entering and exiting positions, and this and that. The data indicates that. Because of this, it's possible that exposure or lack thereof might make the difference between a 2-fold increase and a 10-fold increase. It is somewhat crazy, isn't it? However, for individuals who enjoy adjusting positions and entering and exiting time markets, it's actually worse than that. In any case, they try in time markets. The fact is that, as he mentioned there, it is the 2021 bull run. A bull run, however, only occurs once every 4 years. How about the other 3? You may have some good days throughout the year, but the most significant days will occur at that time, so you will usually need to put in considerably more time to reach the point where you can have a year with 14 nice days. Thoughtful. Do you see what I mean? I keep telling you that you just need to accept this because of this. And I'm happy to admit this. Shrugs. I have no idea when the market will take off. I'm not sure which day it was. Although I am certain that, generally speaking, the market will continue to rhyme with itself, I have no idea when it will stop. However, I don't have to. I'm not under any obligation to be aware of that. I've come to terms with the fact that I will never be able to predict when it will occur. You know what I do know, though? I've spent years preparing for this, so I do know that when it does come, I'll have a fucking ton of money invested in the market. That's the reality. And you have the option to do the same. You simply must avoid making the same foolish mistakes that most novice investors make, because you will lose it. In this, you may win big. I HODL because of this. I retweeted that this afternoon and said, I wish more people knew this. I was exposed to the market for each of those 14 days in 2021, even though I had no idea when they would happen. Buying and then doing nothing makes you rich. Period. Timing markets obliterate wealth gain. Therefore, it is clear that XRP is an early winner in this arena, provided that we are correct about its long-term viability, which I firmly believe we are. It is not a concern for you. Even though you have no control on when XRP departs, doesn't it bring some emotional calm to know that? That's because you can't just control yourself, which is what you can control. Only you have control over yourself. You do realize that the market will move when it moves. The nice thing is that if we are correct, and I'm convinced that we are, it makes no difference in the long run, even if the market declines. All you have to do is wait long enough for the rest of the world to realize you were correct. That's essentially it. It's accurate. That's where we are at the moment. Furthermore, there is no sign that this is the end of it. You should read this post. Nigentropic is the source of this as well. Claims that April 7th, this year's worldwide bottom, was the last time our network growth index increased this significantly during a liquidity reset. That was, of course, following the tariff fear. Ethereum reportedly recovered more than 100% after that. It's taking place once more. You are aware of what follows. Yes, I am aware of what will happen next. People, it's Altseason. Any short-term setbacks that occur in the interim are irrelevant. It won't make a difference. It simply won't make a difference. He's right about this. And this is the Bitcoin vector chart that was cited incidentally. The foundations of Bitcoin are getting stronger. Although liquidity has slowed, network expansion is quickening. There's no breakdown here. There is a buildup. We know that global liquidity has been heading upward, and Bitcoin is already loaded when macro liquidity returns. Let's say I've been discussing this on this channel quite a bit. Additionally, you can sort of predict what will happen roughly during a certain time period by knowing that Bitcoin and the entire crypto asset class trail behind by around 12 weeks. The increasing trend is still going strong. Additionally, we know the cryptocurrency nearly always follows the direction of global liquidity. What does that indicate then? Technically speaking, we can never be certain of anything. All right, so what is more likely? All right, of course, up. Folks, we're not finished yet. Check out the XRP price chart on your screen by reading this post from chart analyst Igrid Crypto. XRP analysis is what it says, to find possible price fluctuations and behavior on shorter time frames. Let's zoom in on the XRP chart for our time frame update. Of course, that just refers to the near future. Zooming in, it lists 5 important observations. First, a closing that is bullish. Several candlesticks are closing above $3, which is a noteworthy psychological level. Traders can feel more confidence about their positions when they are dealing with whole numbers. Wick analysis is number 2. The candle's wicks are mostly pointing upward, suggesting that there is some, but not much selling pressure. It is encouraging that the candle's entire body stays above $3. I'll also take a moment to mention that this post of his was published yesterday. In terms of how he described it here, a few other chart analysts are also saying the same thing. The selling pressure is obviously not too great. The way it was expressed by Casey Trade, another expert I highlighted, was, it looks like selling is exhausted. I think we have a fairly comparable idea there. At least until I started filming this video, that has been the case. Just in case anyone is wondering, the time is 9:46 p.m. Wednesday, August 6th, 2025 Central Time. According to him, the candle's entire body stays over $3, which is encouraging. The third item is a potential retest. There could be a brief return to the 296-293 level. Pay attention to this area. All right, now once more he did reach that range yesterday. That is the extent of this point's events. Critical support is number 4, he explains. We must avoid closing below $2.80 once more. Sustaining bullish momentum requires holding above this level. All right, there must be something to that level because I've seen a lot of analysts mention it. Depending on the analyst, you could see it off by a handful of pennies, whatever it may be. So sometimes we're splitting hairs. However, $2.80 in particular has been emphasized several times. Here's number 5. Specific objectives. The immediate goal is to close above 318. The next bullish milestone is 325. In conclusion, 333 and 345 both indicate the impending arrival of a new all-time high. Despite publications like this one from Cointelegraph that seem frightening, I think it's only a matter of time. XRP price faces full pump retrace if $2.65 support fails, is the title of this one. And depending on the analyst you're looking at, it's another level that has been mentioned. However, I've also seen that one quoted a lot. Take a look at this. Take a look at this eerie article. Keep in mind what I mentioned in the first segment of the video as I go through this, as it's so clear that it's true. Those that get wealthy in cryptocurrency are the ones who just stay on to their investments, recognize that they are grown-ups, and realize that they have no say in when the market goes crazy and rises. When the market moves, you have no say. That's it. The adults are aware of this, and you are either exposed when this occurs or you are not. What, then, is the most likely worst-case scenario in this situation? Even though I don't think this is happening, I think it's irrational to even have a meaningful conversation about it at this time. If we are truly entering a bear market, you know what I would do though, even if we were? Nothing. I would hold on. We will ultimately have another bull run, even if it takes years, and I will be exposed at that point since I have no control over such stuff. I am in charge of the part that I can control, which is my complete inaction after making a purchase. I possess that self-control, yes I do. Additionally, people find it challenging. Individuals who do not invest in this market are unaware of how hard it is for the typical person to do nothing. It's true, but it's kind of amusing. People are terrible at nothing. They have to take action and it will hurt them. Check this out then. The article that sounded frightening. XRP is currently experiencing a significant drop following its July 18th rise to an annual high of $3.65. Since then, it has dropped by almost 19% while attempting to recover the $3.10 to $3 resistance level. Prices momentarily dropped below a crucial support area between $2.66 and $2.80 on Saturday, before rising again on Sunday to make a higher low. Large holdings pulling out of the market seems to have had a role in the retracement according to data from CryptoQuant. Hold on, big holders? They're going? That's usually the wise money though. What is happening there? Let's discuss this then. XRP whale wallets, which are addresses that store large quantities of XRP, have been gradually selling off their holdings between Tuesday and July 9th over the past few weeks. Presently negative 640 million XRP, or around $340 million, is the 90-day moving average of whale net flows, indicating ongoing distribution pressure that parallels the recent price decline. Well, that sounds frightening. We have called. Are you saying that the wealthy, and whales are profiting greatly from XRP? Shoot, does that imply that I ought to as well? After all, why shouldn't I do it if they are? The problem is that, as I mentioned last year, whale accumulation has been enormous at different times. There have been some noticeable increases in purchases this year. Instead of holding for years and years while the price rises, some of these whales will prefer to grab profits up front. They will therefore purchase the dread. In fact, they are engaged in that game. A few of them are. I reiterate that the best course of action for the average person, like me, I'm in this bucket, I'm an average person, is to simply hold and not worry about any of this. On the other hand, some will sign time markets. Now, you don't have to be a day trader if you have any real skill. It's foolish to day trade. It's hardly even day trading here. Swings are being played here. The next item is that. I'm not even interested in doing that right now. I simply want to hold because I am aware that the less I do, the less likely it is that I will make a mistake. However, there are those, and some of them are also entities. Here, real companies might be tinkering with huge quantities of money. Those are the whales, sometimes. Those swings will be used for their play. They will thus purchase when they witness panic selling. They then sell when it rises, even if it doesn't reach a new all-time high. In this instance, XRP did reach a new all-time high. When was the last time we witnessed this then? When did the whale intervene and take advantage of the fact that the price of XRP was doing what it was doing? All right, look at this. I want to remind you that I have discussed this on several occasions, including back then. This headline was published on December 3rd, 2024. The 7-day price gains for XRP are close to 100%, marking the biggest whale activity ever. Now, December 2nd was the local high. I think this is true, but I'm relying on recollection. XRP reached its biggest local high of $2.90 on December 2nd, the most it had been in over 10 years. For the following 6 weeks or so, that was going to be the peak. That was it. In actuality, it decreased significantly over time. So what was going on? Now take a look at this. You might then wonder if this is the end of the world. Like the majority of you experienced this. Most of you who are listening have experienced this firsthand. Take a look at this. Once more, they point out that as of December 3rd of last year, XRP's price has risen significantly, rising 430% in the last 30 days to levels last observed in 2018. According to crypto quant statistics, there has been an extraordinary movement of XRP by large holders, or whales, within the previous month. And in the current article, I just shared with you the identical firm from the prior one. However, this whale activity may signal potential market tops. That's what they write here. That seems really scary. XRP simply jumped a lot as the market crashed. That might be it. But was that it? No, the top was local. That's a funny thing though, you see. Didn't the market also kind of stall for a while? After then, things resumed as before. But no, consider it. That local peak of $2.90 on December 2nd was followed by a slight decline and subsequent sideways movement for the next 6 weeks before it simply exploded. What then took place? Given that XRP increased in value from 49 cents to $2.90, some larger accounts did profit. What followed? How many reports of whale accumulation did I present you in 2025? They were, of course, buying the fear from the little purchasers out there. They were doing just that. The terror is what they feed on. They do precisely that. Don't be shocked then when you read headlines like this one that claim that the whales, or big holdings, are doing so-and-so, in this case, selling. Furthermore, that is true. It also occurred in December due to a sharp increase in price, and they do that as part of their job. However, there are also independent whales who are making significant long-term investments. As a result, some people are playing on the swings, while others are playing for several years. XRP has been introduced as a treasury reserve asset by a number of publicly traded corporations, which I have also been publicizing. Since XRP is useful to such businesses, I don't think they're playing swings, especially those that use it in real corporate payment flows. You are free to behave as you please, since they are playing the long haul. You may be a trader, and I can almost positively assure you that you will lose money. You may play some swings that are a little bit larger than that in place of trading, so you're not constantly entering and exiting positions. Because of this, you're less likely to make a mistake, but you'll still make a mistake. Or you could do what I do, which is to acquire things and then do nothing with them until they are worth a fortune, and you want to sell them for a huge profit. That's effective. That's the most attached thing you can do. You are free to do as you please. Additionally, both big and small money will participate in all of these activities. However, the rich people out there, I'm telling you people, have different skills and emotional resilience than the average lemming retail speculators. Therefore, there are successful traders and successful people in companies and organizations that will sort of play the huge swings. But there are also those who are constantly successful and others who are not. When you could just be hands-off and not worry about any of this, wouldn't you want to live that hectic life? It won't get much more certain than that. Then, we only need to be correct about whether or not cryptocurrency makes sense.
Thoughtful. You are widely known. You will benefit if you are correct that cryptocurrency is a profitable asset class. You have to be correct about a plethora of other things along the road, so do you really want to add all these other levels of complexity? When you take the intricacy out of it, I can tell you that it's the proper thing to do. Nothing is more apparent. Since they can't sell you courses if they tell you this, you won't find many individuals doing so. That's the reality. I'm just going to be honest with you because I have nothing to sell you. That's the way it is. It also applies to stocks. The same idea applies to stocks. Thus, you are free to do as you like. Simply said, the more you do, the more likely it is that you will make things worse for yourself. I'm trying to tell you that. I simply don't want to play that game. Indeed, as I mentioned, there are times when XRP has increased and some big organizations do wish to make a profit, even if it's only locally or over a shorter period of time. Yes, thoughtful. However, what do you anticipate happening? After this, what do you anticipate happening? Was December the last time it occurred? Did that mean that XRP was doomed? No. On January 16th, we reached our highest point ever. You reached a new all-time high of $3.65 in mid-July. We will therefore continue our upward trend. Let the years go by. We will continue to make progress. However, I still don't believe it makes sense to panic because we're not seeing top signs. If you're worried about what's happening in a shorter time frame, I think that everything is looking pretty freaking great for XRP. You tell me what you believe. But the reality is that, although we succeed, the majority of us do so for years, it's only a few days that genuinely transform your life. To be honest, that is the truth. Therefore, you are either exposed on certain days or you are not. And I am aware of my course of action.